Good morning, morning. Good morning, morning.
Good morning, welcome back where we continue our conversations with Senator Melanie Radgman as we talk about concerns over the radar, the Arthur Napoleon Raymond Robinson International Airport. Senator, what are your thoughts on this matter? It's been quite controversial.
It has been quite controversial. Akinlabi, I have so many thoughts. It's just unbelievable. And I guess this is where it gets serious, from the way it was done to what it means to the uncertainty that still looms. I think just on so many levels, it really shows us, if we ever had any doubt, or if we needed a sign, how the central government feels about us here in Tobago. And I mean, we could look at just how it was done. I think, was it a week ago? It was a week ago that half of Tobago were woken up to noises of some sort of aircraft. People didn't know what it was. The initial things were, what's that happening? People were asking all over Facebook. People were asking in WhatsApp, you're hearing this noise, what's happening? And no one knew what was happening. And then we started seeing military aircraft leaving the airspace. We saw aircraft coming, and then we started to see some activity happening at the airport. The chief secretary didn't seem to know what's happening. The prime minister very blatantly lied to us. She didn't even try to use the national security cover. She just downright lied to us. And then we had the MP from Tobago East giving us yet another lie or some misleading story. And then the story just kept changing. And eventually we realized that a radar was being installed. And then we got to find out it was a military radar. And it has shocked, and I think it has appalled all of Tobago. We still have no idea what is happening. We don't know right now if we are sitting ducks. We don't know if we are targets. We don't know if we could expect strikes or attacks to this radar. We have no idea what's going on. We don't know the health implications. As far as I'm aware, in my limited reading that I've done, this is not the sort of equipment that you usually put in heavily populated areas. Usually it's placed away from the public. We know that right near the airport, there are people who share fence lines with the airport. People live right in close proximity with the airport. People go to school there. People have their businesses, their shops there. It's a heavily populated area. It is it is a very damning indictment on the central government and even on Tobago House of Assembly that Tobagonians were not informed. Is a huge indictment on central government that the chief secretary, as he has indicated, not quite sure if it's even true, but he indicated that he was not informed. That is very concerning to me. It is even more concerning that when he finally met with the Minister of Defense and also with the Attorney General, that he came out of that meeting saying that he is fine with not being informed about something that affects the lives, the very existence of Tobagonians. I find that very concerning. I think that is quite telling. Usually I am reluctant to really criticize our Tobago leaders. That's just not my style of politics. I tend to like a more collaborative approach because we all have to live here and we want to see things done the right way. I think this is the first time that I've had a very strong criticism, and the very first time that I've really kind of viewed our chief secretary in less than favorable lens on account of this. I remember a few years ago, Tobago elected a chief secretary. Well, we elected Farley, knowing that he would become the chief secretary with the expectation that he would stand in defense of Tobagonians, that he would stand for rights, that he would have a very loud mouth. And now that he has been called on to do so, now more than ever, it is quite surprising that he has not done so. For me, that is very concerning. It shows us everything that we need to know, and it's almost unforgiving. Right now, there's more questions and absolutely no answers. We're just sitting, waiting, and being hopeful.
You mentioned that the chief secretary would have stated that he was not informed, and the conversation has been that he did not need to be informed because he's not on the National Security Council. But how do you see this issue, even though it's not fully in the remit of the Tobago House of Assembly? How do you see this issue impacting the current administration?
How I see this issue impacting the current administration, let me say this first of all. One, the chief secretary, whoever sits in that seat, whoever holds that office, whoever holds that position going forward, needs to be made a member of the National Security Council without delay, without fail, without even further consideration. That just needs to happen. I would also say that there has been precedent. The practice has been on matters affecting Tobago. It is not uncommon for the National Security Council to meet with whoever's the Chief Secretary. Actually, our current Chief Secretary has in the past met with the National Security Council under the previous central government administration. So there is precedent where that's concerned, that once a matter touches and affects Tobago, the lives of Tobagoans, that the Chief Secretary is looped in, that he's involved, he's consulted, and he is at least made aware of what is happening, and he can make his representations. Nonetheless, going forward, the Chief Secretary needs to be made a member of the National Security Council. In terms of what it means for the administration, I cannot say outright. Tobagonians are watching, let me put it that way. In their corners, in their circles, they are watching, they are talking, and the sentiments that I have received is that Tobagonians are not happy, if with nothing else. This is the matter that has drawn them out. They're not happy about it. I don't know how this will play out in a few weeks. I don't know what this would mean. I don't know if there's time to smooth it over, but as of right now, I can tell you it's not a good look. It has not been taken well. It has not been well received. It has not been taken lightly by Tobagonians. When we would have expected to hear our head or leader here in Tobago really advocating on our behalf, the right for us to be informed, the right to keep us safe, the right for us to be consulted, when we would have thought that we'd have heard that strong advocacy coming out from him. Initially, I want to say feigned lack of knowledge. He said he didn't know, and then even when he knew, he said, well, I didn't need to know. And then he just left it as that. I have not been hearing calls for the radar to go. I have not been hearing calls for increased transparency. Tobagonians are not left any better off than we were before the radar came. We're not left any better off than we were before Wayne Sturge and the Attorney General came to Tobago and met with the Chief Secretary. We're still just as confused, we're still just as scared, and we're sitting there. We get our news from international media. That's where we know what's happening. That's where we know about the increased tensions. Right now, we don't know if we're targets.
Senator, what is your opinion? Do you think that the issue of the radar is being politicized? And when I say that, we are being told by the Chief Secretary and by Attorney General and also the Minister for Defense, who would have said we have nothing to worry about. But then, as you would have highlighted, we had different views of how we got here. Let us be honest, the radar was secretly installed. That is really what happened, right? Without any consultation, without any knowledge to the people of Tobago. But even recently, we had former councillor Sertica Williams, who said that it's a gift to the people of Crown Point and environs. So is it your opinion that is being politicized, that we are being told that we should welcome it, that we should love it, that nothing is wrong with it, that is for our best, but given different circumstances, it probably would have been uproar or alienated? What are your views on that?
Yeah, of course. I think what she said was very disrespectful. I think it was uncalled for. And you know that saying that it's better to stay silent and be thought a fool than to come out and remove all doubt. I think it is a case of that. It is a slap in the face of people like, how dare you? How do you go that far? Politics is one thing. Politics is people, and people politicize issues all the time. So I and as a politician, I can't say much about that. But then how do you take something as sensitive as this, something that affects Tobagonians, especially those who live right next to that airport, and say, this is a gift? Yes, or they should celebrate Merry Christmas, or they get our gift. Or the gift, it's like she's trivializing it. It's almost like she's making a mockery of the concerns of our people. I don't even see it as her trying to shape the narrative or make us feel positively about it. I feel like she's laughing in our faces. I don't think that is something that should be done. I honestly think she needs to apologize, and she needs to say nothing else for this, maybe for the rest of the season, or for as long as she could keep her mouth shut. That is not something that should have been said. It is not something that was received very well by Tobagonians. It is not something that I think she would be forgiven for anytime soon.
Senator, we've seen the comments from Ms. Orr, as well as we've seen a lot of commentary from TPP supporters on social media. Would you say that do you believe that the TPP generally, whether it's through the leadership or the supporters, they are a bit tone deaf in terms of addressing this issue?
Yes, definitely. I think tone deaf, but I also think that it's human nature to seek your own personal interest over the interest of others until it hits home. So I think what we're seeing from a lot of supporters right now is that their interests are being served, they're getting what they're getting, they're living how they're living, and they're not too concerned with the bigger picture. They're not too concerned with how this really affects the rest of Tobago. And let me say this, when I say it affects the rest of Tobago, we've seen where the head of the hotel association has been talking about reduced bookings coming in. We've seen where a cruise ship that was scheduled to come to Tobago, I think tomorrow, Friday, has now cancelled its port call. And I imagine that we're going to see much more of those. So we already start seeing the effects of it on the Tobago economy. We're in our high season, cruise ship season. This is high season for tourism, and we're already seeing how very quickly things are falling apart. I believe it's going to get way worse, and until it really hits home for some people, for supporters, for people who right now, might be living well because of the administration, who might be getting favors, who might be invited to activities, who maybe, I don't know, whatever it is they're getting, they tend to be tone deaf or willfully blind because they're seeking personal interests over the interests of the majority. But at some point, it will hit home. It will hit home for every single one of us. And it's only then that you may see people changing their tune. Let me also say this as well. While there are those who are there openly supporting this for their own personal interests, there are also otherwise supporters who are now quietly speaking out about it. And as a matter of fact, there are supporters who are actually speaking out very openly about it as well.
Yeah. Senator, I know that the opposition leader, Penelope Beckles, she had asked for clarity from the Prime Minister as to where's this data that the radar is collecting? Where is it going? Where is it being stored? Who has access to it? Who is using this data? And I'm not certain if we got a response. We got a sort of a response on X, but I'm not sure if the questions was answered. We more or less had some scathing remarks. Any remarks there from you on that issue?
I think at this point I've come to expect anything from the Prime Minister. So at this point, nothing she does surprises me. I think that what she does is more harm than good for herself and for the country right now. As you rightfully said, we get statements being made on X of all places. To this day, she has not come forward and addressed the country. She has said absolutely nothing to us. She has given us no reassurances. She has not even given us any insight to what is happening. Instead, she shuns the media. She hides from the media. She's very rarely in Parliament, to be very honest with you. So what we get is these rogue statements. I think she's probably following her leader, Trump. But we get these very rogue statements from her from time to time on X. We're not even sure if it's she making her statements on her own. It is very... I'm trying to find the best words to use. Let's go with disrespectful. It is very disrespectful, and I think we have reached an all-time low where our governance is concerned in Trinidad and Tobago. I don't think we've ever been this low before. And God help us, I hope it doesn't get worse.
All right, Senator, thank you so much. Viewers, we were speaking to Senator Melanie Roberts Radgman. We spoke about the radar, recently secretly installed radar, U.S. military-grade radar at the ANR Robinson International Airport, and also the standing ground laws. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more conversations right here. So I want you to do us a favor, share the live. We'll be back.